Good morning. Welcome to our Sunday service, Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta, January 16, the day before Martin Luther King Day, 2022. This morning, our guest speaker will be Tim Hunter. The name of his sermon is The Burden of Being Perfect. We'd like to welcome all of you this morning, all you beautiful and perfect souls out there. Some of you may cringe a little bit at the idea of somebody telling you that you're perfect. Universalism and Buddhism have an interesting view of human nature, that you are already perfect, that even the worst of us, even the most unforgivable of us, has Buddha nature. Even the biggest liar in the world doesn't want anybody to lie to him. Even the biggest killer in the world doesn't want anybody to kill him. All of us aspire to be good in our own eyes, if not perfect. Our mission at this church is to build the beloved community. And what better place to try to be aspirationally perfect than around other people and a chance to serve with an open heart. This morning, we're still meeting virtually, and we want to thank the efforts of our team, Lynn Dennison, and right now our lone hero, Dan Cooper, who is running the tech deck and keeping it real for us over here. We're going to be virtual until February 6th, after which we will try to meet together while still being virtuous, if not virtual. So for all of you aspirationally virtuous and virtual perfect people, thank you for coming to our service today, and we hope that you'll hear something here that will make you want to come back again. Tim? Our chalice words this morning are from the author Erica Jong. O light that nourishes life, let us be mirrors of your splendor. Let us reflect your pure energy and not dampen it. Let us be givers of the light.
Good morning. Our opening hymn is hymn number 102, We the Heirs of Many Age. A note here, we are actually going to be singing the words from 102 to the melody from 315, and I only mention that for those of you at home that might be using hymnals. But we are singing the words at least from 102, We the Heirs of Many Age. We the heirs of many ages, with the wise to guide our ways, honored all earth's seers and sages, building temples for their praise. But the good we claim to cherish, all that Christ and Buddha taught, unrepentant hearts let perish, spurning truth most dearly bought. Centuries of mortal teaching, words of wisdom, ancient lore, all the prophets' souls beseeching, leaves us heedless as before. Late in time may we, forsaking all our cruelty and scorn, see anew to motto breaking, and a kinder world is born.
It is. I was told not to. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be with you virtually. Tim is talking today about how hard it sometimes is to live up to what other people expect of us, how impossible it is to be perfect. I couldn't think of a perfect story with this theme, but I thought of an anonymous Facebook post I saw recently. Some kids are smarter than you. Some kids have cooler clothes than you. Some kids are better at sports than you. It doesn't matter. You have your thing too. Be the kid who can get along. Be the kid who is generous. Be the kid who is happy for others. Be the kid who does the right thing. Be the nice kid. We can't be the best at everything. Maybe we can't be the best at anything, but that shouldn't stop us from doing the best that we can. We can choose to be known for including others, for helping others. This reminded me of another quote that I've seen multiple places over the years. All right. Don't know why it's not going to my next slide. Oh, there we go. Wait a minute. Sorry about that. If you can't be anything else, be kind. We can choose to be kind. Maybe that seems small, but it really isn't, not to the people on the receiving end. If enough people took the time and trouble to be kind, to look out for others, to help in small ways, the world would be a much friendlier place. Finally, these quotes reminded me of something one of my favorite authors, Dr. Seuss, once said. Today you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Maybe we aren't called to live up to standards set by someone else. Rather, maybe we're called to be the best we can be at being us. We all have valuable things to offer, and to some extent, we can choose what those things are. Some things that are based on abilities we are born with aren't entirely in our control, but even then, we can always improve how well we play a sport or a musical instrument, how well we draw or write or dance through instruction and lots of practice. But some things we have more control over, being true to ourselves, being the best person we can be, treating others with kindness. Be yourself and be kind.
Thank you, Reverend Kim. This is the time in our meditation where we can take a moment for silence and peace. Let's begin this moment together. Close your eyes. Try to let the storyline in your thoughts fall silent. Bring your attention back to the body. Try to place your awareness on the feeling of energy or tension that you have in your body at this moment. What is your body feeling at this moment? What are you doing at this moment? Your body and your breath are the way to lead you into the present. And the closer you are to the present, the closer you are to the truly sacred. We'll take a moment, 1 minute of silence together.
Good morning. In 1963, James Baldwin delivered a speech to a group of educators. These are some excerpts from that speech. Let's begin by saying that we are living through a very dangerous time. Everyone in this room, or rather Zoom, is in one way or another aware of that. We are in a revolutionary situation, no matter how unpopular that word has become in this country. The society in which we live in is desperately menaced, not by Khrushchev, but from within. To any citizen of this country who figures himself as responsible, and particularly those of you who deal with the minds and hearts of young people, must be prepared to go for broke. Or to put it another way, you must understand that in the attempt to correct so many generations of bad faith and cruelty, when it is operating not only in the classroom, but in society, you will meet the most fantastic, the most brutal, and the most determined resistance. There is no point in pretending that this won't happen. The purpose of education, finally, is to create in a person the ability to look at the world for himself, to make his own decisions, to say to himself, this is black or this is white, to decide for himself whether there is a God in heaven or not, to ask questions of the universe and then learn to live with those questions is the way he achieves his own identity. But no society really wants that. No society is anxious to have that kind of person around. What societies really want is an ideal citizen, which will simply obey the rules of society. If a society succeeds in this, that society is about to perish. The obligation of anyone who thinks of himself as responsible is to examine and try to change it and to fight it at no matter the risk. This is the only hope society has. This is the only way society changes.
Thank you, Tim. Before our offering, I'd like to read this poem again by Erica Jong. This is where our chalice lighting came from. It's called Holding to the Light. I plant my heart in the earth. I water it with light. The sweet green tentacles of spring urge toward the light. They nudge the earth like fat worms wriggling, loosening light in the darkness. They open the channels and passages that allow the flow of life. O light that nourishes life, let us be mirrors of your splendor. Let us reflect your pure energy and not dampen it. Let us be givers of the light. The dull earth turns on its rusty axis. The dolorous echoes of the dying fill the ears of God, who responds by planting hearts with light, hearts in the moving earth. Let us learn to imitate this infinite making of new hearts. Air, water, earth are all we need, and the miracle of the heart alive with life. This morning is a very cold, rainy, bleak morning, 3 years into a worldwide historic plague, and it's kind of lonesome to be speaking to a church sanctuary that only has 3 other people in it. We're all longing for the days when we can be together again. I'm not sure yet what the difference is between hope and optimism, but in these mornings, we want to remember that light is coming, that everything changes, good, bad, and up and down. Everything is temporary and transitional, and someday things will be different. We're not perfect, but we're trying. The rain is cold, the sun is clouded, but someday it'll be bright. And someday life will begin to seem normal in some way. It'll just be different. That's why we need each other. That is why we need a beloved community. That is why all of this is so important, why all of this matters, and why all of this has to do with the future, where there will be light, and there will be friendship, and there will be the chatter of children running down the hallways again. The things that we miss will come back again someday. And that's why we need you to keep this offering alive. If you want to keep up your offering and keep up the beloved community, we'll have a URL and address on the screen where you can send your donations. And we hope that you'll all be waiting for us when the light comes back again. Thank you.
Good morning. So before I get officially started, I was asked to do this service a few months ago, and it was made clear to me that there was no obligation for me to do this service. And I really, really appreciated that. I recognize that for having an MLK service, ideally, you probably want a black person in the pulpit. So I get that. I understand that. I also recognize that ain't a whole bunch of black people that are here. And that's cool. I understand that. But I felt no obligation to do this. I felt no extra pressure to do this. But I also recognize the optics of our church and what we're trying to do, and you know how we're trying to get the word out. So I appreciated the offer of doing this, and I was actually looking forward to doing this. So I also recognize that, you know, during this time of year, there are a whole bunch of services, especially around here in the CSRA. Now, I'll probably be the least eloquent speaker that you hear around here. You'll probably get a whole bunch more out of different sermons from different people. But, you know, just for our little church, I'm here and I'm happy to be here. So what can be said about Dr. King that hasn't already been said? I mean, long story short, pretty good guy. I mean, people who are far more eloquent speakers than me, as I've said before, have talked about the greatness of Dr. King. Presidents, politicians, entertainers, and scholars have all waxed poetically about the greatness of Dr. King. And apparently, everybody's getting in on the act. So, and it's coming from like some unusual places. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy tweeted earlier this year that critical race theory goes against everything Martin Luther King Jr. taught us, to not judge each other by the color of our skin. Well, Dr. King did mention that. In defending President Trump during his second impeachment trial, Representative Nancy Mace tried and failed to quote Dr. King by saying, "Today, I'm asking my colleagues to remember the words of the legendary leader in this country, Dr. Martin Luther King, who once said, 'The time is always right to do what is right.'" She didn't quite nail the quote, but bless her heart, she tried. In an unscientific study, I can't tell you how many times I came across my more conservative friends on Facebook using MLK quotes when condemning some of the violence that occurred during the protest against brutality across the United States. Essentially, they were saying, "Hey, black people, Martin Luther King was the nonviolent guy. How about y'all try being nonviolent?" The thing that probably comes to mind most when we think about Dr. King is his "I Have a Dream" speech. It was a perfect speech. A little off the cuff, it was an impassioned plea for equality, and it was from the heart. It was perfect. And that's where really America would like to stop remembering Dr. King. Sanitized version of his story: he was born, he fought for equality against this faceless system that didn't quite treat black people the right way. He gave a great speech, and then some random dude killed him. And now we get a day off because of him. Boom, perfect. And if you Google images of Dr. King, you'll find pictures of a man typically deep in thought or giving a speech, sometimes hands clasped together in prayer, no doubt praying for blacks and white equally. You'll find pictures of Dr. King with his wife and kids, a perfect family man. Bonus points for not having a white wife, no threat at all. You'll find pictures of him in his casket, perfectly peaceful, having given his life for his fellow man, and really not a threat now. America has chosen to remember him as really more saint than man. Sure, some people are aware of Dr. King's anti-Vietnam War stance, but we can't talk too much about that. Anti-war equals anti-troops, and we can't have anti-troops. We all support the troops, and we thank them for the service. We don't want to talk too much about how he hated poverty and thought the government should be more involved in eradicating poverty. That's too close to socialism. Killed at the age of 39 before he could enter the next version of who he could be, Dr. King remains forever trapped in American imagery as a mild-mannered peace fighter, really more Dr. David Banner before he could morph into the Incredible Hulk and smash the system. And to be honest about it, it's made my life a little bit harder because it's a standard to which I or any other black person could never live up to. If the perfect image of a black man or a black person is that of a man who was killed at a young age, how can I live up to that? Now, I can't change the being black part, but I'm certainly trying to delay the being dead part as long as I can. In trying to be perfect, I have to uphold an image, and I must recognize that there are certain things that are unacceptable for me to do in public. Understanding this is essential to my survival. In 2020, my wife and my oldest daughter went to a protest in Colombia. Now, my oldest daughter, Taimi, she's in the Army now. If you're watching, shout out to you, Taimi. If you're not watching, why not? But she was really caught up in the protest and got emotional and hyped up. Somehow she got separated from her mother, and Nina called me and was like, hey, we need to find Taimi and we need to calm her down. She was like really, really worked up. So I got in contact with her and I managed to calm her down a little bit because I couldn't have her involved in anything like property damage or things of that nature. That can get her into a whole bunch of trouble, and she was getting ready to leave for the Army in a couple of months. Now, if she was in Athens a few days ago and was involved in some property damage from celebrating Georgia winning the national title, that would have been a different story. Shout out to the Bulldogs for being national champions. You see, when you look like us, you have to be perfect. That's how America likes us. Be like Dr. King. Be stoic in the face of injustice. Stop resisting. Write letters from jail. Pray about it. Be judged for the content of character. Skin color shouldn't matter. That's what Dr. King said, right? Stop talking about race. Stop pulling the race card. Dr. King would never have done such a thing. Haven't you heard his speeches? The hyper-awareness in which some of us must live our lives is exhausting. It took me years to wear a tank top in public because I didn't want to be associated with a certain look. I've not shared this with anyone before, but I struggled about whether I should cut my hair when I was hired as a teacher. I was concerned about how parents of my students would react at open house when they walked into my class and they saw me. I'm well aware of being the only black man at my school, the only black male teacher at my school. I thought perhaps my hair was a little too ethnic, and a buzz cut would make me a little more presentable. I never get angry in public. I don't have that luxury. After I retired from the Army and was working part-time as a teacher, I would regularly go to the gym during the weekdays. Somehow, I ended up taking an aerobic step class. Yeah, I know, I don't look like the typical step aerobic guy, but it was a class that I enjoyed. Now, as you can imagine, I was the only guy in the class and was quite often the only black person in the class, filled with mostly white women. After a while, they got pretty comfortable around me. And then when they would come up and talk to me, they put a hand on my shoulder or on my arm and just touch me. It made me pretty uncomfortable, but I couldn't reciprocate. I'm well aware of the optics of a black man touching a white woman in the South. So didn't say anything, kept my hands to myself, and just kind of moved on with my life. I've often wondered what Dr. King was like in real life, you know, away from the public. Actually, I would say I've wondered what Martin was like. Everyone knows Dr. King, but who was Martin? Did he get frustrated easily? And I don't mean the kind of frustrations that he wrote about in his letters and essays. I mean, in a moment of frustration when he was with his friends, would he be like, man, these white people are tripping. They are getting on my damn nerves. Did he ever say, y'all know what? I don't feel like marching today. Jesse, you take the lead. Coretta made some cornbread and I'm staying home. Did he ever yell at his kids? Didn't your mama say to clean your room? And then last night, while happily watching New England getting blown out by Buffalo, I hate the Patriots based on what they did to the Falcons a few years ago, 28-3 and all that stuff, but that's a whole different story. I found out that Dr. King loved to play pool. Who knew? Dr. King, a pool player, I had no idea. It was one of his favorite things to do. And then I found the picture of him playing pool, and he looked so happy. I found this because I found one of Dr. King's daughter, Bernice King. I found her Twitter page, and she posts a lot of family pictures on that page. And he looked every bit more man than saint. He looked more like Martin rather than Dr. King. He was just a regular dude, and it made me happy. You see, I can't relate to being the leader that Dr. King was. I can't relate to giving a speech and having thousands of people hold on to my every word. I can't relate, obviously, to winning a Nobel Peace Prize. Y'all would know about it if I won it already. I can't relate to influencing America to make sweeping changes to civil rights. But I can relate to being a father. I can relate to going on vacation with my wife and kids. I can relate to holding up my kids as they giggle uncontrollably. Those are some of the images that I saw. And I can relate to that. And it made me so happy that Dr. King was finally not this unreachable goal that I could never attain. He was just a regular dude. And I felt so happy to have found that. So if you want to get a glimpse into the life of Dr. King, or rather Martin, I recommend that you follow Bernice King on Twitter. So, in the spirit of finding out that Dr. King loved to play pool and was just a regular person, I'll share something with you about me that you might not know. I like rap music. Now, some of y'all may have assumed that, and if you assume that, then you may want to look at yourself. But when I say I like rap music, I don't mean just this popular mainstream stuff. I'm not just talking about the stuff you hear on the radio. No, I'm talking about people fighting, shooting, weed smoking, booty shaking, down and dirty, inward dropping rap music like Master P, Tila, Mystical, and the list goes on and on. You probably have a hard time imagining this, but when I was younger and I would be in the club, yes, I used to go to the club, there would be a song that would come on by the legendary rap group, at least in my community, legendary rap group, 3 6 Mafia. It was called Tear the Club Up. And the intent of the song was for you to go and do property damage that I didn't want Taima to do when she was 21, but I was set on doing when I was 21. And when that song came on, we'd be in the club and we'd be fighting and doing all these other crazy things. And if that song came on right now and I was in the club and it was before 12 o'clock because I can't be out too late, I think I would be trying to tear the club up. That's not being perfect. And that's okay. I shouldn't even have to try to be perfect. I hope no one thinks any less of me because I'm not perfect. It is hard to try to be perfect all the time. It is hard to try to maintain an image all the time. It is hard being a black man in America. Every single thing you're wondering, can I do this? Can I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? Am I being too black? Am I not being black enough? Am I this? Am I that? And it's a constant question and a constant barrage. And by the time I get home sometimes, I'm just exhausted. But that's the life in which I lead. And I hope by me sharing something that's not perfect about me, that you don't view me as anything less. And maybe that's something that America has to understand about Dr. King and black Americans in general. May sound blasphemous saying this, but Dr. King wasn't a perfect man. No one's a perfect man. And that's fine. He didn't have to be perfect. One does not have to be perfect in order to do extraordinary things. And extraordinary things are often done by imperfect people. One of my favorite comedians is a guy called Bruce Bruce. He's a pretty funny guy. Now, most of y'all are probably not too familiar with him. He jokes about how he's not a professional comedian and he doesn't do things with a typical comedic strip, like an opening joke and a joke to and a story and then a joke to close. He jokes that when he's done with his set, he just walks off. Well, I'm not a professional speaker. I'm not really good at closing. So when I'm done, I'm just going to walk off and not be perfect.
Thank you, Tim. You were right about that there were many speeches this weekend and talks this weekend, but you were wrong about other people being more eloquent than you. We appreciate your eloquency on these matters, very much so. Our closing hymn is number hymn 117, 1017, Building a New Way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working, yeah, to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed every need. We are feeding every need. We are feeding every need. Start with love, that's the seed. We are feeding every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, mankind will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Our closing words come from Outkast, rap group, greatest rap group out of Atlanta, and probably the greatest rap group ever. Not probably, greatest rap group ever, Outkast. Even the sun goes down, heroes eventually die. Horoscopes often lie, and sometimes why? Nothing is for sure, nothing is for certain, nothing lasts forever, but until they close the curtain, it's him and I, Aquim and I.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.